Hey everybody, my name is Mr. Francy and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. Okay, so today I'm doing my reading vlog covering all the reading that I've been doing from the 7th to the 14th of May 2022, which just so happened to include my birthday on the 12th of May. So on my birthday I did not do any reading, but I read a significant amount, and not that this really matters, I'm just trying to justify my lack of reading to you all, and you all probably don't care anyway, well, don't mind that I didn't read on my birthday, but on the 11th I read significantly more, and on the 12th on the 13th I read, but on the 12th I was out for most of the day celebrating my birthday, and I had a good birthday. I was exhausted by the time I came home. We walked so much. I did so much walking, y'all. I guess this is the Place for Life update. So yeah, it was a good birthday. And yeah, had some fun. Not really much else to update there. And now I'm back here talking reading vlogs. Alright, you're all here to hear about my reading anyway, so let's jump right on in. Okay, so the first book that I read this week was this book, Final Winter, by Ian Rob Wright. This is an adult horror, and I gave this book 5 stars. So which is, before I go into the premise or my thoughts and feelings on the book, it's a great rating. 5 stars. You know, can I just have a moment? Because how many times do I do a review or a monthly wrap where I go, I read this book by this author, it is a this age rating and this genre, and I gave it 5 stars. So the premise of this book is da-da-da-da. I never take a moment to just allow myself to soak it in, that I read a book that I gave 5 stars to. So I gave this book 5 stars. Yay! It was an amazing book, and I love Ian Rob Wright so much. What he has done for me for the horror genre, I can't thank him enough. If you are someone like me who, please, if you've been on my channel for a while, forgive me for saying this for the umpteenth time, but if you're new, if you're someone like me who, when you read a horror, you want it to either creep you out, freak you out, or gross you out, make you want to leave the light on, or convince you that you're going to have a nightmare, put down the Stephen King book you're reading and pick up Ian Rob Wright. This guy is an underrated gem when it comes to horrors. None of his books have disappointed me, yet some of his books I've read have been less horrific than others. Final Winter was just an amazing book with a slow start, but once it got going, my goodness, was it fantastic. Quintessential Ian Rob Wright, and I need to read more of his works. All right. Now that I've celebrated the 5 stars, let's discuss the premise. So in this particular book, which is book number 3 in the Damien Verse series, quick update for you all in case you're new here or you had forgotten, which is absolutely fine. Last year, I read book number 4 in this series. I'm a series purist. I normally read in order, but I had found The Housemates by Ian Rob Wright last year after reading a very disappointing book, and then I don't normally go into books wanting to know anything. I normally like going in blind, but because the previous book had disappointed me so much, I specifically scouted around and looked for a book that was going to serve exactly what I needed, and I found that with the premise of The Housemates by Ian Rob Wright. I read it assuming it was a standalone, and it reads as a standalone. However, it is actually part of a series called the Damien Verse series, and it just so happens to be the last book in that series. So this year I put the Damien Verse series on my SAS list and ended up reading, after I'd read book 4, books 1 and 2, and this is book number 3. So therefore I've now completed that series and have crossed it off my SAS list. Okay. So, all of these books, while they are a part of a series, the series itself is more of a universe, hence the name Damien Verse, in that in every book we follow completely different characters, but in the majority of the books somewhere, there is a guy whose name is Damien who features some way, somehow, and then in the final book, he steps up to be the protagonist. So there's your links of how the series connects. But otherwise, you can read any of these in any order because they read themselves as standalones. Okay, the premise of Final Winter is that we follow a medium cast of characters, but the main ones seem to be Harry, Jerry, Jessica, Damien, and Steph. Harry and some other guys, including Damien, start this book off. They're in a pub drinking, while Steph is the barkeep and a weather lady is telling everyone that this is the worst winter ever. Not only in England, but in the entire world, it is snowing everywhere. Not too much later, the power goes out, not only in the pub, but also in the grocery store that Jessica works at, and also at the DVD store Jerry is at. Somehow everyone winds up together at the pub, but that's just the beginning. From there, mysterious things start to happen, and it begs the question, is there more going on here than meets the eye? So, to my thoughts on this one, I won't lie, this book had a slow start. It seemed to last a while, that slow start, but if you pick up this book, trust me, get through the slow beginning. It's literally allowing you to get to know the characters more. From the moment the action begins, it is a wild ride to the end, with an epic twist that knocked me off my feet. Ian Rob Wright deserves more credit than he deserves. He is fantastic. I could gush about this all day. I could gush about this book and, well, really, the series as a whole, and Ian Rob Wright as an author for the entire video and more. But to keep it brief, yeah, first third, let's put it that way, is a really slow start. So if you like your slow burns and your character development, then you'll be fine with that. If not, push through the slow start. Because once the action starts to build up, it is so good. Oh my gosh, Ian Rob Wright needs to be celebrated for his horror work more than he is. How did I not know that this author existed? Oh my gosh, he's just fantastic. Horror may not be for you. You may just want to, scroll through and find the next book that I'm going to talk to you about. But if you love horror and you want to read a horror that is an actual adult horror defined by Mr. Francy as an adult horror, pick up any Ian Rob Wright's works. You will guaranteed not be disappointed. Not every single one of his books have the same horrific level to them. For example, Sam, which is book 1 in this Damien Verse series, is a lot less horrific than, say, this book or book 4, The Housemates, or even Asbo, for example, which is book number 2, which is quite horrific. I'd put that on the same par as Housemates, with Final Winter 3rd, and the other one I just said to you, which is Sam, 4th, as far as level of how horrific. So, most horrific, The Housemates, which is book 4. Second most horrific would be Asbo, book 2. Third most horrific, this one, Final Winter. And fourth most horrific, Sam. But Ian Rob Wright has not yet let me down with his horror works, the horrific elements that he places into his horror novels. 5 stars for this one. I am reading a heck of a lot more Ian Rob Wright this year, not just in October to celebrate Halloween. I'm adding Ian Rob Wright additional books to my already set TBR for months coming up throughout the year because I need to read more of his works. The guy blows my mind every single time I read one of his works. 5 stars. All right, now that I've celebrated him a lot, let's move on to the next book that I read. So the next 2 books that I picked up were cozy mysteries. So here we go. Here's your fluffy cozy mystery time with Mr. Francy. The next book that I read was this book, Pulp Friction by Julie Ann Lindsay. This is book number 2 in the Cider Shop Mystery series. And I gave this book a total of 3 stars. Okay, so I'll explain why. We'll get to it, don't worry. But first, the premise. In this one, Winnie is hosting a wedding at her cider shop when suddenly the groom winds up murdered on her property and her ex is the number 1 suspect. So Winnie corrals her friends and family together to try and solve the case. Okay, bit of a backstory with regards to book 1 and to see if this may entice you to pick up the series or not. I'm rather neutral when it comes to recommending any book or series. I tell you what I know. If you decide to pick it up, yay. If you loved it based on my recommendation, let me know. If you didn't, that's absolutely fine too. But anyway, I will transparently tell you what my thoughts are to give you some sort of idea of whether or not the series will be for you. The backdrop to this series is that we follow Winnie, who is living with her grandmother on her grandmother's acreage. Her grandmother has an apple orchard farm thing, and in book one, Winnie is someone who aspires to open up her own cider shop. At the end of book one, it seems like that's going to happen. And in book two, we open up with the cider shop being open. I appreciate this because I did not enjoy the apple cider, the apple orchard side of things in book one at all. And I was looking forward to this one because I wanted to see more from the cider shop side. I am a huge fan of culinary fiction. That is, any fiction to do with food and or cooking. And I love culinary cozy mysteries. But in book one, just walking around an apple orchard just did not interest me in the least. But if it interests you, you may love it because the cozy side with the apple orchard, it was done really well. Julianne Lindsay just has you feeling like you're there. You can see everything. You can almost feel everything, experience everything in the apple orchard. So if that's something that intrigues you, then I would highly recommend picking up book one. If you are picking up book one for the cider shop itself, I wouldn't pick up book one because the cider shop doesn't appear in book one, but it does in book two. So what led me down with the second book is that when it comes to cozy mysteries, as I am an eclectic reader and I read many different genres, like I think I read at least 12 different genres every year. So I'm very well read when it comes to different genres. I love to mix up my reading with different genres because I am quite eclectic. And because one of the genres I read is mysteries, standard mysteries, when I pick up a cozy mystery, I do so because of the cozy side, not because of the mystery side. So for those of you who don't know, with a cozy mystery, the comparison between the cozy mystery and a standard mystery is that a cozy mystery still has a mystery in it. But as the name suggests for the genre, it should be a more cozy and comfortable experience compared to your standard mystery, which would have adult themes and stuff like that appearing on the page, where adult themes are not allowed to feature in a cozy. So for example, the murder will take place off the page. Anything gory or sexual or adult themed cannot be in the book. So when I pick up a cozy, I do so because I want the cozy element experience. In this case, with this series called the Cider Shop Mystery Series, I want to see a lot of things that occur in the cider shop to do with the cider shop, not the mystery side. And so therefore, I am someone when I pick up a cozy mystery who picks up a cozy mystery for the cozy dominant side of a cozy mystery, not the mystery dominant side of a cozy, nor the hybrid of 50-50. Between the two. This book and book one were definitely more mystery dominant than cozy. We did not spend a lot of time at all in her cider shop, and well, some readers may think we did, but I don't think we spent anywhere near enough time in there, so that did significantly let me down. I just don't think this series is for me overall. And I have to say that I'm glad that we did have more time to focus on the cider shop, but felt like we spent nowhere near enough time in it. And it would have been amazing if Julianne Lindsay could have cut back on some of the mystery stuff to allow us more time in the cider shop. I will continue on, as there's only one book left in the series, and I hope the final one is a lot more cozy, but honestly, it just doesn't feel cozy enough for me. Now, that does not mean necessarily that this series is not for you. Maybe you like your mysteries when it comes to cozies. It just means for me, someone who prefers my cozy mysteries to be more cozy leaning, that so far it's not for me. But yeah, with only one book left, I might as well read the final book and close out the series rather than just read two and not complete the series. Like, I've just literally got one more hurdle to go. I had a series last year that just went so downhill that had 3 books, the Nantucket Candlemaker mystery series, and I read book 3 for the same reason, to just close out the series. I have to say, comparing the two series, I prefer Apple Cider Shop by a mile. And I do think that Julianne Lindsay is a great writer of cozy mystery series. I love her Christmas Tree Farm mystery series that she writes under the pen name of Jacqueline Frost. I just don't like this one as much. Okay, so the next book that I picked up was this book, Death and Daisies by Amanda Flower. This is book number 2 in the Magic Garden mystery series, and I have not finished this book yet. I am up to chapter 28, which is page 231, and I think on Audible I have an hour and 20 minutes left, but I need to explain a couple of things. First of all, if you were watching last week's reading vlog, you would have seen that my projected reading plan for this week did not include this book. It actually had Final Winter and Pulp Friction alongside Pros and Cons by Amanda Flower, but I instead am reading Death and Daisies, and I'll tell you why. I have come across a limitation on Scribd, which is where I listen to some of my audiobooks. I exclusively listen to audiobooks and divide my time between Audible and Scribd. But Scribd is cheaper because you pay for a subscription and then you get a certain amount of books included in the subscription, where with Audible, you pay for a subscription and then you pay on top of that for the audiobooks that you want. So for me, I ended up trying to lean a lot more on Scribd so that it would save me money, but I end up coming across a limitation I've never faced before, which is that all of the books that I planned to read for the remainder of the month wouldn't be available for me until the 16th of May, because that was my next billing cycle date. So I guess I reached my limit. I don't know what the limit is. And for some reason I'm thinking of Mean Girls. The limit does not exist. If only the limit would not exist in this case. But anyway, so I ended up deciding to go to Audible and listen to Pros and Cons by Amanda Flower on Audible, but Audible does not have Pros and Cons. Scribd has books 1 and 2 in the Magic Bookshop mystery series by Amanda Flower, but Audible only has books 3, 4, and 5, and not book 2. So because of that, I need to find a book on my TBR that was available on Audible while I'm waiting for the limitations that I have currently to be lifted by restrictions, to be lifted on the 16th. And therefore, on Audible, I was able to track down Death and Daisies, and that's why I'm reading this book. That explanation out the way, this is book number 2 in the Magic Garden mystery series. This series has not been a favorite of mine, but I need to make a very big statement here. The reason it's not a favorite of mine has nothing to do with Amanda Flower. Okay? I love my dear Amanda Flower so much. I cannot stop gushing about her. I love my dear Amanda Flower as much as I love my dear Mr. Brando Sando, aka Brandon Sanderson, when it comes to fantasy. Amanda Flower for me is cozy mysteries done exactly the way I want them done. My problem is all to do with the narrator. So the narrator of this book just really annoys me, and I don't want to say that, but it colors my experience when I'm listening to books exclusively the audio edition of books, and you have a narrator that annoys you. It can color the experience. And the narrator is just using an accent for our protagonist as well as standard prose that just grinds my gears so much. But anyway, I need to make a point because I think that some of you may be just a little bit confused as to what I mean by the narrator annoying me. This is a book that is set in Scotland, which is different because a lot of the cozy mysteries out there are set somewhere in America. So to have it set in Scotland, I think is fantastic. It's very different. And every character that is not our main character, and in this book, our main character's sister is also there. So aside from our main character and our main character's sister, everyone else is Scottish. I have not one issue, not an issue at all, with the way that the accent is for the other characters. The Scottish people, I love that accent. It is done incredibly well. Praise to the narrator. My issue is when the narrator does the accent for our protagonist, and in this book, our protagonist's sister, who is not Scottish, but who has how do I say this without being offensive, but wanting to be really transparent? She has a very extremely, to the extreme twangy voice, and it's just very hard on the ears. I'm not trying to be offensive. It's just I don't think it was intended to be as hard on the hearing as it is. And maybe that's just me. Maybe it's a cultural difference with me. I'm not used to that. For one thing, I don't live in America anyway. But the extreme twangy voice of someone who comes from a twangy background. I don't even know whereabouts they would be in America because I don't live there. It's just very different and very hard on the ears and the hearing for me. So it is very hard to listen to the narrator narrate this book. In saying that, I think the story is great. I just really struggle with the narrator, and because of that, it colors my experience. All right. In saying that, let me give you a bit of a background onto what this series, the Magical Garden mystery series, is all about. So we follow in this one Fiona Knox. Fiona's uncle / godfather, really depends on the day, but I guess he's both. Because in some sections of the book, she says he's her godfather, and then other ones he says uncle, so I guess he's both. But anyway, uncle / godfather passed away, and before he did, he was an American living in Scotland, and he had this beautiful garden, and he ended up bequeathing everything to Fiona, which was interesting because Fiona's his goddaughter, but you would think he would leave it to family members that were older, so maybe his brother or sister or whatever. And Fiona's parents are exceedingly jealous of Fiona. But anyway, Fiona accepts the bequeathment, if that's a word, of the house and the lovely garden that he left her. The garden itself is very, very reminiscent of The Secret Garden, if you've ever read that or watched any of the visual adaptations, where it has a locked door with a key and you go in, and it has a wall and all these beautiful flowers and everything. Oh my gosh, Amanda Flower. Insert joke here, Amanda Flower writing a cozy about flowers. But anyway, Amanda Flower is so good with the visuals. Oh my gosh, her descriptions are amazing, especially when it comes to this garden. I love it so much. Again, if I can get over the narration, the actual story is fantastic. But there's more to the garden than meets the eye. It comes with a magical element. Now, I don't want to spoil what that is because it is a spoiler. We don't find it out until 3/4 of the way through book 1. But Fiona has been connected in some way magically to the garden that is going to assist her somehow with solving the mysteries of each book in the series. So there's your setup. So in this particular one, she is opening a florist in Scotland, in the main area of Scotland, because she did run a florist in America, but it didn't work. It failed. And her husband ran off with the wedding planner, which I cannot imagine how... I mean, I know that she's a fictional character, but how you would deal with that. You're engaged, you're planning a wedding, and then your husband runs off with the wedding planner? Are you kidding me? Then again, there's a movie made about it, isn't it? Yeah, The Wedding Planner. Good old Jennifer Lopez. Okay, we'll just move on. So, yeah. Fiona moves down to Scotland, and in this particular book, she opens up her florist, deciding that she needs a way to make money, and if she doesn't run a successful flower shop this time, then the dream is over, but she wants to give it another go. It may have failed in America, but hey, it may work here in Scotland. So she opens up the store, and on the opening day, she has an open invitation for everyone to come by, and the night before, the minister, who really doesn't like her. I won't say why, but in book 1, he really is hateful towards her. And I thought he was going to be the victim in book 1, but he wasn't. But anyway, the minister comes by to just really verbally lay into Fiona. He really doesn't like her. And even though she should know this already, because in this book, she showed up to his church and he told her to something that I can't say on BookTube. But he told her to go away, but not using those words. Well, yeah, anyway. So she should know that he doesn't like her, but he decides to show up the night before to her florist store to tell her just how much he doesn't like her yet again. And the following day, while she is having the opening of that florist, one of the guys who works at the local pub, who she's gotten to know, comes in to let her know let everyone there know that a murder has taken place, and it turns out that the person who has died is the minister. So Fiona, being extremely concerned because she's the number one suspect, the only person that seems to be publicly known that the minister doesn't like is Fiona, decides to investigate everything that she can to do with this case because she needs to get her name off the suspect list and find who the real murderer is. Okay, so that was a really terrible premise, but I haven't done a review on this yet, so we're just flying by the seat of our pants here with this because I haven't finished the book yet. But anyway, my thoughts and feelings are the narrator annoys me. The narrator annoys me. If you haven't heard me, I'll say it one more time. The narrator annoys me. But that aside, the book is good. I really love the garden itself. I feel like we could mention the garden side a lot more than we do. But in saying that, I still, as I say, the narrator just, oh my gosh, I have issues with the narrator. And I just can't say it enough, and I've probably said it 20 times already. But that aside, the story, if I was physically reading this, I don't think I would have one complaint. I think the character of Fiona is fantastic. I think the way that her culture growing up where she did in the States offsets everyone else who is Scottish. I think the dynamic works really well. I love her friends, Pressure, who is a friend of hers she met over there because Pressure has her own, I think, like tea shop. Pressure is so awesome. She's my favorite character in this series. So love her, love the garden. Amanda Flower features animals in every single book she writes, and I love that about Amanda Flower. In this one, Fiona has her own cat, Ivanhoe, but that's common. A lot of cozies that I read has the protagonists have a cat. But Fiona's property and garden comes with its own gardener, who her uncle slash what's the word I was thinking? A god, whatever. She's the godchild too. Godfather, whatever you call that. He had hired a gardener who I forgot his name, Hamish, and Hamish still works on the garden, so they've gotten to know him, or she's gotten to know him, and the relationship she has with him is fantastic. He has the different animal in this one. So just let me quickly explain to you what I mean, because I'm sure that's confusing. In Amish Candy Shop, which is another series that Amanda Flower writes, the different, quote-unquote, different animal we have in that series is a pig named Jethro. In Amish Matchmaker, we have two goats who are, I think, Peter and Paul, if memory serves correct, but it's been a while since I've read that series. And in this one, we have a squirrel, which I love, and the squirrel is Hamish's squirrel. And so I just love that Amanda Flower always includes animals. But anyway, my point is, based on the book and not the narration, anyone who thinks I love the narration after this, oh my gosh. Not the narration, but the book is actually good, and I'm enjoying myself with it. So I'm looking forward to seeing who the murderer is, because up to this point, there is no other suspect, even in my mind, as far as anyone who would have clear motives to want to murder the minister, aside from Fiona. So I love that Amanda Flower has set it up that it makes sense. Fiona's motivation to get involved makes so much sense, because I've read so many cozies that don't, but she is the number one suspect. So of course she's going to do everything she can to clear her name. Anyway, fantastic book. I'm enjoying it so far. I've got about an hour and 20 minutes left, as I said. And then when this is done, hopefully by that time, my limitations from Scribd will be lifted and I can move on to everything else. All right. In the limited time we have left, let's quickly discuss what I plan to read for the rest of the coming week. Okay, so first up, I plan to finish off Death and Daisies by Amanda Flower. When I've finished that, my limitations are lifted from Scribd, I'm going to finally read this book, The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This is a YA LGBTIQ plus book and is the prequel to They Both Die at the End. I love Adam Silvera and his works, and I loved They Both Die at the End. So looking forward to the prequel of that. And then I will finally read this book, Pros and Cons by Amanda Flower, which is book number 2 to in the Magical Bookshop mystery series. But there you go. That is my entire reading week and what is projected to come in the following week. How has your reading week gone? Let me know in the comments section below. But in the meantime, I'm going to let you all go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Please do be kind and love one another and spread your sparkling energy all throughout the world. And until next time, happy reading. Bye, everyone.